Welcome to the Reporting 101 webinar. This is Randy. I've been with Workamajig since a little over 11 years. Started in January of 2013. All right, so what we're going to do today is kind of go over the basics of reporting in Workamajig. That will be covering some back-end setup. We'll look at views and custom reports, and I'll show you the canned reports in Workamajig as well, and let's get started. All right, so first thing I want to do is just kind of show you as an admin in the back end of the system where you can grant your staff access to reports. So I went into system setup, and then I'm going to go into account information and then system options security settings. So if I am in the security settings right now, I have the account managers group is highlighted. And if I type in the search field here, the word report, that will show me all the rights with report in it. And you can see right here under system administration, there's a few: design custom reports, run custom reports, and review the report center. And then I'll turn on scheduled reports for this group as well. So that I'll be showing you a scheduled report as well. So also down below in the report section, this is where you're granting that particular user group and those users in that group access to the different canned reports that are in the report center. And you can see that many are checked for this account managers group, but some of them are not checked off. But if you want to grant that security group additional rights to those other reports, then you would just check these boxes here. On the right-hand side for account managers, this is the edit pencil for that security group. If I click on it, this is going to show you the data sets, the custom report data sets that are in the system, and which ones are hidden and which ones are visible to the people in the account manager security group. And you can see there's a lot of different data sets, all the way down to WIP posting detail, and those can be turned on to visible or hidden to that specific account manager security group. If you don't have access to a data set, then it's not going to be available to you when you're trying to design a custom report. And these data sets, they're a subset of all of the fields that are in Workamajig, but they are just a subset. So each one of these would have different fields in that as well. So, all right, so that's the back end setup. And I want to kind of compare a view versus a custom report. So I'm going to go into the toolbar under views. Global search is the default, switch to views. And down in the project management section, you can see there's a lot of different views for projects. One I'm going to focus on today is assignments. And here's an all assignments view. And if I want to open this up in a separate tab, I'm going to hold down on my PC keyboard, the control key. I believe it's the command key on a Mac. And then left click that all assignments view. And that creates a new tab at the top for the all assignments view. This is where I was, and this is the extra tab now at the top. First thing I want to do is I'm going to make a copy of this all assignments view so I can retain the original version. So if I click on modify, more, copy this view. Do I want to? Yep. And so now I have a copy of the original all assignments view. And if I go into settings, you can see it says copy of all assignments. I can change that report name. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do by what I'm going to call the report, all assignments grouped by staff. So that's the report name. Red dot means it's a required field. A title alignment left. Subtitle, if I had one, it has an alignment requirement as well. And the orientation, either portrait or landscape. You can see which data set is being used for this view, task assignments data set. And over here on the right-hand side under the settings tab is show search conditions. So if I ran the report, it would show at the top of the report the search conditions I chose. If I check run this view when it is opened, this box being checked means that as soon as I open that report, it's going to run without waiting for me to click search. And then private means currently this new copy of that all assignments view is only viewable by me because I have it marked private and I am the owner. If I wanted to make it private to somebody else, I could do that and switch that to a different user. But I'm going to make this available to multiple security groups or people. So I'm going to uncheck the private box. So by default, it's going to be available to anybody in any of these security groups. So I don't want my clients having access to this, and I don't want my vendors or freelancers to have access. So I'm just clicking on the trash can, removing those two security groups. So anybody in any of these security groups will be able to run this report. If I wanted to add specific people, I can hit the plus button here and switch to people, and then I can pick different people that I want to have access to this instead of the security group. All right, so that is my settings tab. And then if I look at the layout, first thing I'm going to do is apply these changes and then memorize my copy. Now I have the original all assignments and then this new one, all assignments grouped by staff. So I'll go back in and modify my copy. These are the default fields that are in there. If I wanted a different field, I could add an additional column in there. Not going to do that. And under the filters, there's currently no filters, but if I want to just add a filter, I'll click that link there and I'll use staff. So I'm going to say assign staff. Instead of saying equal to, I'm going to change this condition to any of. And so now it's going to be a list. And I want to make that a prompt filter. So it's going to prompt me to choose which staff I want to pick, or I can just leave it blank and use them all. So that is now a filter that has been added, and you'll see that in just a moment. So back on the layout tab, the main reason that I'm creating this second view is to show you those columns grouped by staff. So again, I can type in assign staff here, apply that change, memorize, which is kind of a save as, and then some people call this the hamburger. Those three dots, three lines open up the panel on the right. And right now there's Bill Smith and Big Barnacle chosen. But if I wanted to pick somebody else, I now have this drop-down list of all my staff. So I'll just pick a few here, click done. So now it's just going to run the report or review based on the group of people that I've chosen in the assign staff any of tool. Click search. And now you can see those are the people that I chose to do this for. Abe Lincoln, Big Barnacle, and Bill Smith. This now is grouping all of those fields by staff. So you can see all of the assignments that are for Abe, Big Barnacle, and Bill Smith. And that allows you to easily, pick all of Big Barnacle's tasks, and then I could update those and change the complete date if I wanted to, or I could reassign those to somebody else. If Big Barnacle's on vacation, I can just switch those to Bill Smith if I wanted, as an example. So that's the difference between me running the original all assignments group view versus the new one I just created, all assignments group by staff. Is if I ran this one and hit search, it's just listing out all of the task assignments, not grouping them by user. And so it does show the user on the far right side, but grouping those by staff makes that more functional, in my opinion. So that would be a good report that you might want to just update in your own system. All right, so that is a view that we created based on making the copy from the all assignments view. And then if I go back in and modify one more time, I want to point out something that's going to be different in our custom report that we're going to create in just a moment. The area I want you to focus on is where it says locked columns here. There's an additional group rows together checkbox that's on a custom report that's not available on a view, which is about the only difference between a view and a custom report is you're not able to group those by count, sum, max, or min. And you'll see that availability in the custom report that we're going to create. So nope, don't want to save those changes. So now I'm going back to my original tab, and we're going to switch over to our report center. So under main menu, you won't have to click show all apps most likely, but under everyone and report center, this is now all of the reports that are in Workamajig standard and then custom reports. And you can see that I've created multiple folders to put reports in that I've created. Other is the default, and then, I've been here for over 11 years, so I've got a lot of old reports that are sitting in that other folder, but you can see I have some in these other folders as well. And where are these folders created? Under the back end of the system, admin manager, system setup, global lists, report groups. So these are those report groups that I created. The other is in there by default, but these are the new ones that I inserted. If there isn't any report in any of these folders, in one of these folders, that folder won't show up in your list of report folders. So that's why this list is a little bit shorter. There's some report folders without any folders, without any reports in that folder, so they're not showing displaying here until there is an actual folder in there, a report in that folder. Sorry. This favorites here at the top, I'll just show you quickly, like project financial reports. One of the most common used reports is the project budget analysis report, and so I'm going to click that star there. That adds it to my favorites. If I no longer want that in my favorites, I can just uncheck that star there. All right, so going through the canned reports, these are our contact management canned reports, project financial reports, and each of these has a note as to what this report is for. And like I mentioned, project budget analysis is very popular. That's great for account managers, project managers to look across multiple clients and look at the budget across those clients. If I click on that report, here's all the filters that I can use when I'm generating this report. And right now I have a custom date range, and today's date is what I've put in there. And if I just run this report, you'll see the project budget analysis for that date range. And each one of these columns, if you hover over it, it tells you the formula that's making that column. So this report here also has a modify button, which is unusual for a canned report. Usually you're just restricted to whatever is at the front page of that report set up. But this one does have different fields that I can add still. I can, just like that view that we did, I can insert row and add more fields, or I can hover over and remove a field if I want to. What you're going to notice is missing is the filters. There's no filters tab here, but there is the settings tab. And then I also could, group this as well, just like I did the all assignments grouped by staff. Just wanted to point out that this particular project budget analysis report does have the ability to, be modified. So you're not just restricted to the canned reports. Again, I wanted to point out that filters tab is not available. So these, again, are your only filters that you can use when you're running this project budget analysis report. But just to kind of keep showing you the different canned reports in the system, you got your traffic reports, project schedule setup, project status summary, project tasks by due date, etc. For people that are in AP or AR, you've got your 1099 detail, your AP aging, check listing, purchase order listing. On the AR side, you've got your billing worksheets, kind of the old school printed hard copies where you use a red pen to put things on hold or write things off, etc. But also in the AR, you have your client statements, and then your AR aging as well. Media has 4 canned reports as well, and then your financial reports, your balance sheet, corporate P&L, general ledger, journals, cash projections, but also in here is client and profit and loss detail for a specific client, and then client profit and loss multi-view, which shows you the profit and loss across multiple clients. And then similarly down below, you have the project profit and loss detail for a specific project, and then across multiple projects. You can use the project profit and loss multi-view tool. So that is the kind of overview of the report center, and we're going to create a custom report from scratch, and you'll see the difference in that locked columns area. So if I go up to the top and I click New Custom Report, these are those data sets that I showed you in the beginning when I was showing you the back end setup. These are all the different data sets in the system. If I want to just find ones that are related to projects, just type in project. If I want to find some that are related to time, put in time. Time detail data, no costs is the one that we're going to use. Time detail data with labor net. This one is more restricted typically, because if you have 1 hour of work and you see the cost of that 1 hour of work, you can kind of do the math to figure out salary information. So time detail labor with net would be for your accounting team, your administrators of Workamajig. They would have access to that, but generally speaking, staff that doesn't need to know anything about anybody else's salary would make sure that you use the time detail no costs. So I'm going to choose that data set. And again, now I have the layout, filters, and settings tab, and there's that group rows together option. We don't have any columns in here to show you yet, but if I wanted to create something where, all right, by client, client ID or client name, I'll go client ID as the grouping option. Columns, I want to see by client project name. There's a full project name, which is project name and number combo, or I could just put in project name or project number. I'm going to use the full name. And we can drill that down into the task level. So I've got task ID, task name, and task full name. Again, I'll just use the combo of the name and task ID combo number. So for that project, for that client, and the task, what are the allocated hours that were allocated against those tasks versus actual hours worked on those particular tasks? And this is where group rows together comes into play, because if I check this box, now you see project full name, project task name are going to default to group, and allocated hours and actual hours are going to be summed and rolled up into those groups. You also have the option here, switch that one to group if I wanted to, but you can do the average or the count or the max or the minimum value of that particular field. So we want to stick with sum and go into the filters, add a new filter. We have client, so we'll just go client name, and using that same one, I could use equal to, and then just look at one client, but we can use that any of option again, make that a prompt filter. And just to throw in an extra one, staff, I think it's under user. Username. of again. And then under under settings, this is the time detail data, no costs. That's the name of the data set. You can see that again down here, right? So we'll rename this to March 24 report 101. Currently it's private just to me, and it's defaulting into display in the other reports. I could change that and put that in any of the other report folders that I want to, but I'm just going to leave it in the other reports. No longer do I want this to be private. I'm not going to show the search conditions, and I'm not going to have it auto run when I open up the report. But I unchecked private, so I am still the owner. Again, I could make somebody else the owner, but now I want to make this visible to different security groups or people. And so this is where I can just add those security groups, skipping clients, executive owner, traffic, and skipping vendors, freelancers. I could make it accessible to those, but typically I'm not going to. So I'm going to save the changes that I've done so far. And then this now is the report, and I can pick my client or users if I just want to run it without specifying anything. And I am going to modify this one more so you can see how this can come into play. One more filter, date worked. So when were those timesheets entered? I'm going to choose the between condition, make that a prompt value as well, apply the change, memorize it, and now I have a third prompt filter, date worked between. So let's just see what's been worked across all my clients and all my users for 2024. Not a ton of data in there, but if I back that up and make it January 1st, 2023 through the end of the last year, more data in there. And so now this is showing project full name, task full name, the allocated hours, and the actual hours worked. And I'm clicking on that handle. As soon as it turns to a double arrow, I can drag that wider. So now this is showing me by client all of the projects and all of those tasks for those projects where there's allocated hours and how many of those allocated hours have been worked. And you can see that there has been eight hours worked for that client on these 5 projects. So that is the way that you're going to create a custom report versus a custom view, keeping in mind that only in the custom reports are you going to be able to group those rows together. So if you're doing a view, you won't have that checkbox option for grouping rows together. All right, I said that I was going to show you how to schedule a report, and so I'll click Apply Changes, and I didn't make any changes, but I'll just memorize. So here under the More button, after running that report, I can create a schedule. And so if I want to view scheduled reports, I can click there. There isn't any schedule for this report, so it's going to be blank. But if I actually create a new schedule, this now allows me to run that report based on those filters and email it to whoever I want to receive that on a daily, weekly, monthly type basis. But defaults right now without me editing anything. You can see that the schedule name is the name of the report. I can edit that and change the name if I choose to. Days to keep the report, 90 is max. Stick around for 21 days. Starting date is today's date, and at 11:30 a.m. it's going to go out. And there's the send no data report notification. So if like tomorrow it went out, but there was no data, it would let them know that there was no data. Export type is PDF. Date created was today. Data set, there's that time detail data, no costs. Daily reoccurrence, every 1 day. Range starts today with no end date, and it's been created by me. And if I want to edit any of that information, this is where I can change the schedule name if I choose to, give a description of the scheduled report. There's that send no data box that's been checked. That's why that is showing out here in the schedule details. Export type, do you want it to be just a PDF, or do you want it to export to Excel or a CSV file? When do you want it to recur? Daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and then every X number of days or every weekday. Choose which option you want there. The range starts today with no end date. If I choose end after, 10 occurrences, or end by, specify a date that you no longer want this to be scheduled to go out, I'll leave it as no end date. So now if I hit save, that is going to go out today at 11:30 to whoever I choose in my email list. If I want to delete that report, I can delete that from right here. Or if I show view schedule report, there is the one here. And then globally, and you'll see that I have some other scheduled reports in my system. Admin Manager, System Setup, again, global list. Under scheduled reports, here's the one we just created. And these are some old ones that I've done in the past. Put that under System Setup, Global Lists, Scheduled Reports is where you can see all of your scheduled reports in one place. Like we've got a Q&A up there. Yep, good question. That's what we're just covering. So let me read it to you. The days to keep report field, does this mean historical copies of that report are kept, and where does that keeping reside? So that is here under global lists, scheduled reports, and this is where you can see that those will be kept for X number of days, depending on what you chose in your schedule report setup. Question. All right, well, that pretty much wraps up reporting 101. Just to kind of recap, we went over the back-end setup of making sure your security groups have access to the data sets in custom reports, which canned reports they have access to, and then also creating a custom view where we don't have the group rows together option that we do in a custom report. And then we also covered the canned reports along with creating a sample custom report with filters and fields and groupings. And then we also used that group rows together so that we could sum up those allocated and actual hours against the projects and tasks that they belong to. Any other questions? If not, have a great rest of your day. Is there a way to add a Gantt chart to a report? Yeah, there isn't any Gantt chart that you can add to a custom report. Some of the canned reports may have them for like timeline segments, but in general, no, there's not an option to show a Gantt chart in a custom report. Got another one? Oh, you're welcome, Greg. All right, I appreciate you guys taking the time to learn about the basics of reporting in Workamajig. And I think later this month, Dave will be doing advanced reporting where we'll do some calculated columns and potentially calculated filters and groups, along with some little more in-depth report building. Again, I appreciate you taking the time, and I will bid you farewell. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.